So where did it go wrong? When you lost that weight, you looked in the mirror and then you was just like, hold on. Do you think that he could have married that girl that lost 130 pounds?
Honestly, probably not.
Or that he would even want to?
Oh, I look pretty amazing, so he probably would have wanted to. But I don't think he could have. Now thinking back, I don't think so. Yeah.
Do you think that he felt that when he looked at you?
I think that he felt betrayal. How could you do this and I met you at this weight? How could you lose this weight and just totally change when I met you at this weight?
You think that he felt betrayal?
I think that he did, because he supported me. He was there for me when I was 320 pounds. But then when I lost the weight, I was different. My behaviors were different.
What do you mean?
I dressed differently. I wore more fitting clothes. I started to go out a lot more with my girlfriends, more than ever. I started getting a lot of attention, a lot more attention from men. And I didn't know how to handle it. I just couldn't handle it.
Every woman is not wife material. Every woman is not wife material. So you could have a wedding. You could even get married. You could be a wife on paper, but being a wife in your spirit, I would argue, is different. And this woman on the video that you saw in the beginning is an example of what it looks like when being a wife goes wrong, being desirable becomes dangerous. So being a wife is, of course, it's a title, it's a position, legal position, spiritual position, but it's also a mindset. And to be honest with you, this story stopped me in my tracks. Actually, I was gonna make an entirely different video, and I decided to stop and make this video because I wanted to talk about the dangers of desirability. And you all know that I talk often about the accessibility of surgeries, and in this case, this is not the type of surgery I typically talk about. So that's why I think this story is so important, because it's not about this woman getting a BBL. You know, this woman got weight loss surgery for I'm assuming health purposes. She was, I believe, over 300 pounds or more, and lost, a ton of weight, 130 pounds. And then, goes from being a big girl to a baddie. And as a result of the, desirability that she stepped into from losing all the weight, she decides to become a 304 in her marriage, a 304 phase inside of her marriage. And, if you happen to watch the entire clip, which I'll link in the description, she speaks so highly of her husband. And she even says that, they don't even make him like that anymore. She's now dating. She's having a hard time dating. And it sounds like, for the most part, she regrets her decision to cheat on her husband. But why this story is so important is because in this day and age, women have access to beauty and desirability in a way that they never have before. It is unprecedented in terms of the access. I remember, in the 90s or early 2000s, if you were an unattractive woman, you had limited options. You could wear makeup, you could, lose weight via some of those more outdated ways, like there was Slim Fast and Jenny Craig and, all that stuff. There wasn't, even weight loss surgery wasn't as accessible. And now, if you are not desirable, if you're not attractive, there's so many ways that you can glow up, so to speak, and become almost a different person. And whether you do that via surgery, whether you do that via an app, via an app on your phone, and you manipulate how you look, and post that. I mean, there's so many different things you can do.
I think about two different mentalities, right? I think about the girl that gets the BBL. One day, I don't know, let's say she has an undesirable body. The next day, she's the most desirable woman in the world. There's a mentality that goes into that, right?
Yes.
Because in your mind, you're still that girl before the body. You can't just change that overnight.
Right.
But when you lose the weight and you put in the work for the weight to be gone, I feel like the mentality is sort of gradual and you sort of become that person in a different way. What do you think about that?
Well, let me correct you. So I had weight loss surgery. So I didn't put in as much work. It's kind of similar to getting a BBL. You go in one day and you don't have a desirable body, and then you come out and you do. With weight loss surgery, it's gradual, but it's kind of quick when you lose the weight. You lose the weight pretty quickly. I lost 100 pounds in 6 months. So it was quick.
What kind of surgery was this?
The sleeve, gastric sleeve.
Okay, and
Yeah.
they just...
So they make your stomach smaller so you can consume less.
I've heard about this.
Yeah. Very old surgery. Yeah, everybody's getting it now. Everybody and their mama. Everybody.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I never really thought about weight loss surgery in this way. When weight loss surgery comes up, typically it is, again, it's for health, and people lose the weight, and sometimes their partner will join in with them and lose weight also. And but I hadn't really considered the ways in which someone can go from being, again, very undesirable because of their weight, and how their access to desirability, and again, especially now, could, as this woman said, put them out of the league, so to speak, out of the league of their own, husband. Husband in this case, but it could be also wife, depending on the situation. And, I think the part for me of the story really is when she talks about the fact that this woman talks about how she was going to leave not only her husband, but her baby. She just had a baby, and I think the baby was, I don't know, maybe 1 year old or just very young. And she was cheating around, sleeping around with, she actually called him the work 304. So the guy that she was messing around with was a colleague at her job. And he apparently was with she later found out he was with other women, of course. But she said that she was willing to walk away from her entire family, including her child. And again, it was because this man at her job was giving her all types of compliments. And she talks about how enticing it was and how exciting it was. And they would meet up at hotels often. And occasionally he might buy her a gift or take her to dinner. But for the most part, there was just one thing on the table. And she was going to blow up her entire life for that. But again, we have to go back to desirability because, she sort of blames it on the fact that, she, never in her life had she experienced getting that type of attention. And for her, it was so intoxicating. But, I think this is the ultimate cautionary tale for the modern woman, and even for the modern man to be aware, is that, again, the accessibility to desirability, whether it be through weight loss surgery, which I often don't think about. But, of course, I spend a lot of time kind of highlighting butt lift surgeries, but there's other surgeries that she went from, doing, I guess, regular wife things that wives do and moms do, to being at the club multiple times a week, to, like I said, dressing in a way that she had never dressed before. Essentially, having this, socialite experience that she didn't have before. And, you know, I thought that was interesting too, that she in some ways said that her weight loss surgery for her had a similar impact that many women's, I don't know, implant surgery would have, or BBL surgery would have. You know, for her, her weight loss surgery had that same impact.
You going out, you hanging out more.
Yeah.
Does he say something to you?
At first, he kind of let it slide. He stayed at home with the baby. I had a 1-year-old at the time.
Wow.
And he stayed at home with the baby, and he kind of let me do my thing. Yeah, at first.
And then it was like, all right.
And then he was like, okay, do you have to go out every weekend?
Oh, he was out every weekend.
And during the week sometimes.
So you're meeting men?
Well, no, not at first. So I was getting a lot of attention from men.
Right.
But at first, that was all it was. It was nothing any more than that. Just the attention. Yeah.
So her husband is now, her former husband is now remarried, and I believe has a family, and, you know, they're co-parenting and that type of thing. And she speaks highly of him. So I do appreciate her honesty with, you know, being transparent about her story. But also she's, you know, I would kind of say she's losing at this point because, you know, he moved on, and she was hoping that the work 304 would, because here's plot twist is that he was also married. So the work 304 was married and doing all that stuff with her and other women in the office. And he was very clear with her that he was not going to leave his wife. But she was going to leave her husband and her baby for him. And so now she's single. Now she's alone. And I think the takeaway here is, you know, for modern women, with the accessibility of desirability that we now have via various surgeries, via apps on our phone, via makeup, and, you know, all the things that we can do, wigs, you know, the fake lashes, the fake nails, everything we can do to make ourselves more desirable. And is there any way that changes our position as a wife? Does that in some way sort of take away from the does it take away from the essence of wifehood? You know, and an image that comes to mind is Felicia Rashad, who is kind of upheld as the ideal African American or Black American wife. And, you know, obviously in her role in the Cosby Show, she, of course, was a natural beauty, you know, and juxtapose of Felicia Rashad to, I don't know, a Nicki Minaj, or I mean, Nicki Minaj is a wife, right? Cardi B is a wife. If you are a Nicki Minaj and you are a Cardi B, and you look that way, and it takes great effort, time, and money, and surgery and so forth for you to upkeep that look, does that in some way subtract from your ability to be a wife? Just curious. You know, how does desirability impact wifehood is my question.
Bring me to the day you cheated for the first time.
So, met a guy at work, and we started to become friends. He was very flirtatious, gave me a lot of attention. I had just had a baby. I was about a year postpartum, and I was feeling, I mean, the weight was gone, but I was still feeling bad. I was feeling bored and frumpy, and I just wanted some excitement. And he and I became friends, and it was innocent at first. And then it gradually started to progress into something a little more inappropriate each day. You know, I worked with this guy.
Work husband.
I had to see him.
Yeah.
You know, he would walk me to my car if it was too dark at night, whatever. And we began to talk on the phone. It was over after that. The phone. We started talking. We became friends. And it was like, well, let's go out for a drink. I'm like, okay, cool. So then now I'm lying to my husband saying I'm going out with the girls when really I'm going to meet him. And it just gradually worked itself up from there. And I was just so enamored with this person and his personality and his charisma. And he wasn't boring. And I was excited to go to work. You know, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yesterday I did some filming and I left out a very important point. The woman who I spoke about, who lost a ton of weight and cheated on her husband with the work 304, ended up getting pregnant. And she got pregnant by the work 304. She was not sure who the father was of this unborn child. And so her husband actually found out that she was pregnant, but he assumed the baby obviously was his. And she made up some excuse and said that, you know, oh, it's just not the right time. I just had a baby. You know, the husband assumed that it was his baby. And, you know, this again, you know, I'm going to go back to Kimberly Nicole Foster's video, being good will not get Black women wifed. Could it be that this woman, the one who lost 130 pounds, was a 304 already when she got married in her spirit? And the only thing stopping her from cheating on her husband before was her lack of options. But as soon as she loses the weight and becomes a baddie, then all of a sudden the 304 identity comes out. This is why we have to be very careful about who we marry and about who we allow into our lives, who we trust. And, you know, again, I do appreciate how honest she was in this interview. I think it just speaks to how so many women are yearning for so much attention, and it's superficial attention. I think it really represents the way that looks matter to the modern Black woman. It is in some ways unprecedented in terms of women having so much access to you know, desirability, being able to go from a alleged, I don't know, 4 to an 8, you know, just by way of whether it be makeup or filters or surgery or whatever. But I did want to bring that point out about her getting pregnant, because that just sort of it even exposes even more how this woman really, you know, when you get married, you know, of course the vows is, you know, till death do us part, and richer and poor till death do us part, sickness and health, all of that. That is, you know, you're agreeing to something, and not only to the state, but also to God. And the fact that all it took was her losing weight to completely betray not only her husband, but go against the vows that she made to God as well. This story is very telling. So if you have a chance to check it out, I linked the video in the description box. And again, I want to have more conversations about beauty and desirability, specifically as it relates to Black women. And, you know, how are the modern times changing as a result of all the things that Black women can do to change their looks?
I never felt that before, ever. I have never felt so more desired in my life, ever. And even though my husband, he was very uplifting, you're beautiful, you're this, but this was different. This was, not only did he tell me I was beautiful, but I actually felt it too. You know, when my husband would tell me, I'd be like, oh, whatever, you're supposed to say that. But when this guy, it was just different.
It was just different.
It was just different.
Even the way he speak about it, you know,
Yeah.
I could tell that it sort of brings you back to that
Very
feeling,
intense.
and it's
very intense.
very
Yes.
intense.
Yeah.
So you're out for a drink, you have a drink, it goes too far.
Way too far. We started talking every single day, meeting before work, staying late after work, and it just progressed from there.
Where did y'all have sex at?
Oh wow. At a hotel for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, at a hotel.
You set it up like, all right, this is gonna happen.
Well, he set it up. We talked about it a lot. I was very scared because I had never stepped out in my relationship ever. So I was very, very scared, but I was willing to take the risk because that's how intense the relationship between us had got.
So comment below. Let me know what you think. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Click the links in the description box. Get to know my business, Curated Legacy LLC, and also my books on Amazon. I have a book with my mom called My Brother Adam, and also I have a book, a memoir about being an invisible Black woman on Amazon. This is Naka here to make the invisible visible, and as always, stay tuned for more videos.